Welcome, Tiffin University friends, family, alums. Jason Griffin here on the campus of Tiffin University with a distinguished guest today. We've got the founder of OfficeMax, Michael Feuer, is in town today, and what a pleasure to meet you and watch your presentation earlier. Talk about your visit so far. How have you enjoyed Tiffin?
This has been a terrific. I've known Tiffin because I'm from Ohio, but I never knew Tiffin until I knew Tiffin University 24 hours now. And as I was saying to others on the campus, this is a very engaging campus with people that seem very committed to the school, to learning, and to enjoying themselves. And I think that includes the faculty as well as the students, and it doesn't get much better than that.
Well, you had a great turnout for your presentation this morning.
Yes, I'm very impressed.
And one of the things that I found interesting, it was a very good presentation. I enjoyed it. One of the things that I thought was really interesting is how you started with OfficeMax. See, $20,000 of your own money.
Right.
And then, as you said, OPM, I think was the other acronym?
Other people's money. Yes.
How did it all start?
Well, because of the fact it's very difficult to build a business in any place anymore with your own money, particularly if you started as I did, poor, which is a negative. But what you have to do is learn how to attract other people's money. And you don't do that from a standpoint of just getting their money, but you have to make certain promises and then tell them how you're going to meet or exceed their expectations. And when you think about it, it is not much different than a person buying a stock in a company that's public. The stock's $10, for example. They don't buy it because it's $10. They buy it because maybe it'll be $12 or $15. So people investing in a new company, a new idea, they invest for what it isn't now, but what it may be tomorrow, and that's the real key. So you have to be able to articulate a plan for tomorrow. Now the reality is, many times you can't get there, and then that's called Plan B in business. Because as I told the students today, very few business plans are met exactly to what was prescribed, and instead they have to be adapted to as you go forward in terms of revising and managing your plan.
You obviously have a passion for business, but at the same time, I think one of the things that was intriguing about your talk today is your persistence. You went into a couple of different stories where you would call somebody the story where he said his last name, and that was the greeting.
Joe Antonini.
Share with us that story. That was great.
This interesting story was the CEO of Kmart had decided to open Office Square stores where we have OfficeMax stores. The only difference was Kmart did $38 billion in sales and we did about 3 or 4 million at the time. So I got this guy's phone number. It turned out he's the chairman of the board. I figured out when he would be in his office. I called him on the phone, and the phone rang, and I suspected that he would call. I'd call. He'd tell me I'm not interested and hang up on me. Instead, he answered the phone and said Antonini. His name was Joe Antonini. So I didn't know what to say because I expected him to hang up on me, and I just said Feuer. And then Joe said, "What can I do for you?" And I said, "I'd like to buy your company." And he said, "Which one?" And I said, "I don't really care at that point. I'll buy Kmart, Builder Square, Sports Authority." And it was obviously an icebreaker, obvious to me anyway, to start a dialogue. And the key is, I've had some terrific successes with reaching people that supposedly are not reachable. And with a little bit of homework and some persistence, you can get through to about anyone in the world if you really work towards doing it. And you can't waste their time. You have to be ready with something of substance to tell them, because people can hang up on you.
In OfficeMax, obviously, went from, as you said, your initial $20,000 investment to $5 billion in sales, and all over the world, quite frankly.
All over the world, yeah, exactly.
And what made you decide at some point to say, you know what, it's time to sell it and move on?
Good question. And I think life is a series of timing. I also have even though I was very proud to start OfficeMax and spend 16 years, I never believed that OfficeMax was who I am. I think who you are is not necessarily what you do. So therefore, I left OfficeMax because I had a sense it was at the peak of the business, and I wanted to cash out, candidly. But I never had the remorse that, oh, I'm giving up my child. It's a business, it's not a person. And I've been sad about things in my life, as most people have. It's never been about a business. And it was a little embarrassing at times after I sold the company. Friends would come up and say, oh, you must feel horrible. I wound up for the first couple of months with sores in my mouth because I didn't want to be a jerk, so I was biting my lips so I didn't look too happy. But I'm thinking of the stock I sold and the money I made, and they're thinking, oh, I gave up my firstborn. Wasn't the case. It was a business, not a person.
And not only are you a businessman, you're also an author.
Right.
The Benevolent Dictator, which is available, and another book coming up here in a few months.
A new book called Tips from the Top, which is derived from a syndicated column that I write for a network of magazines called Smart Business in a number of cities across the country, and it's taking 10 years of the columns, reformatting them into about 120 lessons for entrepreneurs and business people. And even this book, The Benevolent Dictator and Tips from the Top, obviously they're focused on business, but they're more about how to achieve objectives, whether it's business, personal, or social, emotional, or spiritual. It's about how to get things done and not let roadblocks stop you from getting it done, or at least trying.
Benevolent and dictator. You have two very different words. You put them together explain what that means.
I think my title came when I wanted to sell books, and I thought it was a little bit controversial, so it's good marketing. But more importantly is I learned very early on in starting several businesses, including OfficeMax, that when the time for talking is done, in a small business particularly, somebody has to make the decision, and hopefully the decision is by someone who is benevolent, recognizing they have many constituents, including their investors, their customers, and their employees. And that's the benevolent part. Dictator is nothing more than the trigger of someone has to, as I said, when the talking is done, someone has got to decide. And sometimes building a consensus is terrific sometimes, but other times and you have to go from mind to market very quickly, or you won't have enough money, resources, or time to get the job done.
Besides coming here to Tiffin University and speaking to our students and our faculty and some of the community members here today, what else keeps you busy these days?
I have a number of companies, and I'm involved with a number of things. Probably one of the things I'm most proud of is my time I spend in coming to places like Tiffin University. And candidly, when I first started my career, all I did was work, and I didn't really have the time, which may have been an excuse, to really give back to the people that made me successful. So I enjoy meeting new people and new venues, nice people, and I like sharing my success with others. So I spend a lot of time doing speeches. I do anywhere in a given year. I've done as many as 40 and sometimes 15, 20 a year. And I always say I learn as much from the audiences or the venues as I have today here in Tiffin University, which, new to this university as a visitor, it's a terrific place with just a very impressive staff, faculty, and student body, and that's a great combination.
And lastly here, as you walk around campus today, it's a gorgeous day. You see so many 18 to 22-year-old, give or take, students walking around this campus. Many of them would love to have the success that you've had. What advice can you give our students that might be watching this today?
Well, at this point, I'd be happy to trade with an 18 or 22-year-old. Knowing what I know today, I'd have even a better life. I think the advice is dare, do, dream, and do. Sometimes you can talk yourself out of anything. If you can think it, you can try it. The worst you can do is not be able to achieve it, and then you go with plan B. And probably the number one lesson I've learned in my life, and I'm a very fortunate person, the journey must be as much fun, if not more fun and gratifying than the destination, because getting there is terrific rewards, be it money or whatever, but the journey is what life is all about, and having fun on that journey makes life worth living.
Well, Michael, it was a pleasure.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
Michael Feuer, the founder of OfficeMax here on the campus of Tiffin University.